This is the portrait of an innovator, Juliette Gorden Lowe, Daisy. I am Meg Donaldson Carson. You might have never heard of Juliette Gorden Lowe, but have you eaten a Girl Scout cookie? Then you need to thank the founder of Girl Scouts USA, Juliette Gorden Lowe. Today's Girl Scout cookies are the largest girl-led business in the world, selling about 200 million boxes a year. Troops have been selling cookies since 1917, when a troop in Oklahoma sold them as a service project. In the 1920s, girls began selling cookies they baked at home to help finance activities. How did the lady from Savannah become the founder of the largest leadership organization for girls in the world? Currently, there are about 2.6 million girls and adult members worldwide. About 59 million women alive today were Girl Scouts as children. Juliette Gorden Lowe, or Daisy, as she was more commonly known, was born on October 31st, 1860, in Savannah, Georgia. Daisy came from a long line of strong women, including her great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother, who all received accolades for their actions in life. Daisy's mother was from one of the founding families of Chicago. She met her future husband while visiting a school friend in Connecticut. During the Civil War, she found herself pulled by her husband, who joined the Confederate Army, and her father and brothers, who joined the Union Army. Little Daisy was confused why everyone couldn't get along, a theme that would follow her through her life. Around the end of the war, she, her mother, and siblings went to live for a short time in Chicago. Food was scarce, and Daisy had been very sick. While in Chicago, she saw many Native Americans who came to her grandfather for consultations. Her grandmother had lived with the tribe and was known as Grand Wee Na, which means little ship under full sail. She was known for her drive and high spirits, which her daughter and granddaughter also had. They were both called Little Ship Under Full Sail also, which they took as a compliment. Daisy developed a deep appreciation for Native Americans that lasted her entire life. The childhood threat of yellow fever was highest in the summer, so all 6 children were sent to a cousin's house on the coast. The brood would run around together, boys and girls, playing, having adventures, and acting out imaginary stories. Daisy was vibrant and headstrong, full of play and mischief. Her sister lovingly nicknamed her Crazy for her zany adventures. She had loved art. She was often drawing, painting, and sculpting, or modeling, as she called it. She had a deep love of animals. Once old enough, all 6 children were sent to boarding school. Daisy went to school in Virginia, New Jersey, and finishing school in New York City. She was a model student and made friends with girls from across the country. Education was very important to her family, even though the cost was quite expensive. Daisy settled down and was known to be very responsible. She met her man who would become her husband in her 20s. He was from England and Savannah. Daisy seemed to realize her family wouldn't approve of him and kept the relationship quiet. She eventually married him. During the wedding, a grain of rice landed in her ear, and it became severely infected. This led her to be almost completely deaf. They moved to England, where they would divide their time between London, the countryside, and Scotland. Life in Europe. To Daisy's great sadness, they never had children. Daisy had always wanted to be a mother, and she felt like a failure. Even though she was an active and robust woman, she suffered health issues. The doctors ordered her to stop riding horses for the sake of her health. Her husband was passionate about horse racing, often gambling large amounts. He started spending more and more time away from Daisy and longer times on hunting trips. Daisy flitted around from parties to social engagements, making friends wherever she went. Daisy and her husband separated, leaving Daisy financially unstable. Friends and family around the world stepped in to help Daisy. Before they divorced, her husband died. Daisy still had to fight for her financial support. Once that is settled, she begins to travel the world, continuing to make friends wherever she goes. She meets Robert Baden-Powell, the celebrated war hero and founder of Boy Scouts. They both love art and the outdoors. They bond over an appreciation of Native American skills. He felt these skills had helped him rise through the ranks of the military. He created Boy Scouts to help other young men from all backgrounds become good citizens. His sister Agnes was helping run Girl Guides, the companion program of Boy Scouts. Daisy became more and more convinced this was the purpose she had been seeking. I told him about my futile efforts to be of use and shame I feel when I think of how much I could do, yet how little I have accomplished. And when thrown with a man who has made a success of everything, by contrast, I feel that my life brings forth nothing but leaves, a wasted life. He looked so kindly when he said, "There are stars that guide us on, although we do not realize it." Daisy quickly started her own Girl Guide troops in Scotland and in London. In Scotland, she tried to help the girls find ways to earn money, such as raising chickens and how to card and spin wool. She always made sure the girls had a yummy tea with treats and lots of fun. Though Daisy looks very severe in her pictures, she was whimsical and always doing silly stunts like standing on her head. Back in London, she started 2 Girl Guide groups, one in Lambeth, a very poor neighborhood. She felt the Girl Guides should be open to everyone. She began to help Girl Guides even more by raising money and awareness. She hosted a tea for over 60 people, including all the committees of Girl Guides in London. She even arranged a combined dinner and opera party, but snuck off to a modeling class after dinner. Daisy planned to travel, but left her troop in good hands. Daisy became well known for using her deafness to her advantage. When she asked someone to take over one of her London troops, they began to explain why they couldn't help. Daisy simply turned her head and said she was glad that was settled. Over the next few years, she resorted to this tactic again and again. She literally turned a deaf ear and wouldn't take no for an answer. Daisy arrived home in Savannah and called a distant cousin. "Come right over. I've got something for the girls of Savannah and America and all the world, and we're going to start it tonight." Daisy held the first meeting of the Girl Scouts on March 12, 1912, in her mother's sitting room. She wrote down the name Daisy, her niece, as the first Girl Guide in the United States. From that first gathering of a small troop of 18 girls, Daisy broke the conventions of the time, reaching across class, cultural, and ethnic boundaries to ensure all girls had a place to develop their leadership skills, advocate for themselves and others, and turn their ambitions into reality. Daisy finally had her girls to replace the children she never had. Daisy quickly ran around Savannah, starting troops all over town and committing all her friends to be patrol leaders for the new troops. She promised them the carriage house at her husband's house in town, which became the first headquarters. Troops played basketball, marched, learned first aid, camped, cooked, and more. Daisy hired a local secretary and a national secretary. These salaries, plus all the uniforms, all come from her own pocket. She even got her mother involved and anyone else who will listen. She gets the American version of the Girl Guide book published in 1913, which is received enthusiastically. Of all of Daisy's talent, it was her talent for friendship that had the most to do with making the Girl Scouts a thriving organization in so amazingly a short time. She starts calling the guides Girl Scouts, and everyone follows suit. Daisy starts being in the spotlight. Everywhere she goes, people want to interview her, and she becomes a national celebrity. Daisy is invited to be presented to King George V and Queen Mary. By 1914, the patent for the trefoil, the symbol for Girl Scouts, is hanging on the wall in the national office. Daisy was quite the showwoman and would often decorate her hats in parsley and carrots. When they would start to wilt, she would complain that she had no money for a new hat, since all her money went to the Scouts. She would then cajole the listener to donate. Great Britain declares war in 1914. Daisy tries to help her British friends in any way she can. Daisy befriends Herbert and Lou Hoover, who eventually become the President of the United States and the President of Girl Scouts. This helps leads to the tradition that the First Lady of the United States is the honorary national president of Girl Scouts USA. She sells her magnificent pearls to help fund Girl Scouts for another year. This story is still told today, and the Girl Scouts will often make or wear pearls to remember her sacrifice. The organization is incorporated as Girl Scouts under code law, and the first constitution and bylaws are adopted. In early 1916, there are over 7,000 registered Girl Scouts. It is decided the Girl Scouts will pay for itself, since Daisy had paid for everything the first 4 years. In late 1916, the headquarters moves from Washington, D.C. to New York City, where it is still today. See the attached picture. During the war, Girl Scouts jump into action and provide help wherever they can. They help the Red Cross, they help in the canteens of railway stations, they act as messengers, they plant vegetable gardens to help raise food, they sold Liberty Bonds. During the flu pandemic of 1918, they stepped in and helped relieve overworked nurses. In February 1919, the International Council met for the first time. Daisy was able to report there were 40,000 Girl Scouts in the United States. In January of 1920, she stepped down as the president and was then known as the founder. After she stepped down, she was able to spend more time with the girls and was out camping and visiting. Juliette Gorden Low, Daisy, died on January 18, 1927, after a long battle with breast cancer. She was buried in the uniform the way she wanted. In the pocket was a folded telegram that said, "You are not only the first Girl Scout, you are the best Girl Scout of them all." Daisy was a pioneer who allowed play and passion to become her purpose. She persisted when others did not. Girl Scout alumni fill every occupation around. Entertainers include Taylor Swift and Mariah Carey. Journalists include Barbara Walters and Katie Couric. Almost every female astronaut was a Girl Scout. 76% of female senators are Girl Scout alums. All 3 female secretaries of state were Girl Scouts. Her work has touched every life of every American today. In 2012, President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Daisy is the perfect addition to any lesson on trailblazers or a feature for Women's History Month. I hope you enjoyed this presentation about an innovator, Juliette Gorden Low. I'm Meg Donaldson. Thank you.